Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Churchill Downs here on Friday. It is the 5th of May, 2023. It's Kentucky Oaks Day from Churchill, and I'm going to look at the Kentucky Oaks and all the other stakes races here on Friday's program from Churchill. But before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kit 5 for more selections for race courses around the world. And also remember to join me tomorrow for my Kentucky Derby preview. Also in the UK, you have the 2000 Guineas, which is basically the beginning of their classics in the UK also. So check out that preview. It's going to be an exciting day of racing or weekend of racing. So I hope you join me for all my thoughts on those races. But stick around towards the end of the video. I'm going to talk about all the horses in the Kentucky Oaks with the top selection. But we have quite a few stakes races to look at, races 5 through 11. We're going to start off now with the 5th race from Churchill, which is the Alysheba Stakes. It's a Grade 2 event going for a $600,000 purse race for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 7 horses entered to go to the main track, the distance of ground of 1,700 meters or a mile 16th on the Churchill main track. My top selection here in the Alysheba, I'm going to take the 4-horse West Will Power, 4-2-5-1 for me in the superfecta. 4-2-5-1 super, top selection of 4-horse West Will Power, 6-year-old horse by Bernardini. Brad Cox trains, Flavian Pratt gets the mounts. I think this horse is your next, classic division kind of horse that's going to lead the division. I love the victory last time out in the New Orleans Classic at the Fairgrounds, mile 8th on the 25th of March. The horse went by 4 3/4 lengths, and he stalked, not the fastest pace, but he got to the front and he quickened up, and he took off clear. He beat home the Pegasus runner, the winner, Our Collector, really put on a show, but this horse coming on with a career best 109 buyer. That was an incredible run. Prior to that, in the Razorback Handicap at Oakland on mile 16th, 18th of February, he finished second by 1 1/4 lengths. He stalked, he came back to the front end. He was drifting late. He needed the race. Last Samurai had the jump on him, who went on to run a very massive place in the Oakland Handicap after that. This horse came home with the 103 buyer that day. He just couldn't keep up there. But he ran his heart out there. And then prior to that, in the Clark Handicap, or Clark Stakes now, here at Churchill, mile 8th in the fall, 25th of November, actually my birthday, the horse finished second by 3/4 length, and he set the pace. Proxy had the jump on him late, but he ran his heart out, coming home with an 100 buyer there. And the Fayette at Keeneland, mile 8th on the 29th of October, he won by 6 3/4 lengths, walked on the front, he quickened up nicely, driving home a 102 buyer, best of his career there. And then option 100 here at Churchill, mile 8th on the 20th of September, he won by 2 3/4 lengths, again on the front. He went down very, very nicely. Refreshing here, back to Churchill's preferred track. I love him here a lot. I think your second likeliest winner is the 2-horse Last Samurai for D. Wayne Lucas. Came back in the Oklahoma Handicap where he ran a terrific race around Proxy. He just missed, but he really ran his heart out. Gets Luis Saez up today, which I think is going to be a good thing. 2 back in the Essex Handicap. He won by length from a stupidly wide poster. It was wide throughout, but just kept coming. He beat Classic Causeway home, a 101 buyer, a very good race for him there. And then career best race in that Razorback Handicap over the mile 16th at Oaklawn. He won by 1.5 lengths. Didn't break so well, so it was gaining a lot of ground late, but he got there, beating West Will Power. A very good run. Keep in mind, the top 3 out of that race were all next out winners. Third place finisher, Law Professor, next out winner. West Will Power, next out winner in the New Orleans Handicap. And this one won the Essex, and ran a terrific race in the Oakland Handicap. Big question with him is, does he like running here at Churchill? He ran here in the Clark last year where he finished 4th by 7 lengths, never really showing up. Ran last year Stephen Foster where he never really showed up. But, ever since the fight, he's really becoming a better horse, and the buyers have been improving a lot. He won the Oakland Handicap 2 seasons ago quite nicely at 12-1. But since coming to the Lucas barn, he's really showed a lot. He also has been running a lot closer in races in the last few months than he has been normally. He's running basically almost every 4 to 5 weeks. Ran in the Clark Handicap and ran in the Fayette. A month later in the Clark. 3 weeks later in the Tinsel, a month or 5 weeks later in the Pegasus, 3 weeks later in the Razorback, a month later in the Essex, 5 weeks, 6 weeks in the Oakland Handicap, and now 3 weeks, I guess, since the Oakland Handicap, something like that. I have no idea, but he's training well since the last race. I'll give him a shot at 4-1. He's a real workhorse, kind of a throwback horse the way he runs, making his 5th start of the season so far. But to recap my selections for the 5th from Churchill, it's the Alysheba. We're gonna take the 4-horse West Will Power. Give kudos to the 2-horse Last Samurai. 4-2-5-1 super. 4-2 to begin off the multi-race wagers. Let's get to the 6th event. The first stakes turf race of the day, the sixth race from Churchill, it is the Modesty Stakes. It's a grade 3 event going for a $300,000 purse, race for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upwards. Field of 9 horses going to the mat when turf course, the distance of ground of 1,800 meters, or a mile and 1/8 on the Churchill turf course. Portable rails are down this weekend, so just keep that in mind. Of course, the Modesty used to be the local prep race for the Beverly D at Arlington, usually running mid July for the Beverly D, which would be run million card in mid August. But moving it to Churchill's not bad. I would have thought with the million going to Colonial, this race would have probably won to Colonial also, but it didn't. But it's still a good race here, and it has a very rich history if you look it up. But my top selection here, I'm going to go with the 4-horse Sparkle Blue. I'm going to go 4-6-7-2 in the superfecta. 4-6-7-2 super. Top selection of 4-horse Sparkle Blue. 4-year-old filly by Hardspun. Ground Motion trains. Joel Rosario gets the mount on this one. And Rosario had a very slow beginning of the year, it seemed. But in the last month, he's really picked it up. And I think he's peaking as a rider coming into this year. Coming into the Derby the weekend this year. So just keep an eye on him. Most recently, Sparkle Blue ran the American Oaks at Santa Anita, a mile and a quarter on the 26th of December. And she finished third by 3/4 length. She just kind of stalked all the way around the race course. She was drifting that day. She was bumped. She just couldn't keep the straight course. Maybe a little bit tired fall campaign. She ran her heart out. Refreshing here, not the world's toughest race. Still tough horses. I think she could get a good tracking trip and win. I want something you should keep in mind going into the turf course here at Churchill this weekend and meeting. So far this meet, we've only had 4 races, 4 race days so far this meeting, but the rails were out, but the speed was really holding up well, or horses closer to the front end. Now, last year also, the front end horses really were doing very well, and you wanted to be close to the speed or just off of them. Deep closes won last year, but it wasn't as frequently as it was in years past here, where they had a very fair turf course. Something I always, something I stepped over from the old turf course to the new turf courses. You want to be a little bit wide, especially when it rains here at Churchill. I always thought the 5-6 paths, when it had some moisture in it, was always better. The rail was never really that good near the hedge where the water drained, especially now, I think. But just keep that in mind. You want to be a little closer, which I think this horse could do. Two back, she ran the Grade 3 Valley View at Keeneland, a mile 16th on a good turf course, 20th of October. She won by 2.5 lengths that day, and she just kind of stalked all the way around the race course, a little bit wide. But when she hit the turn of foot, she got the job done. 86 Buyer, best to that point. A very good race for her there. And then a Colonial mile and 1/8 inner turf course in the Virginia Oaks. She finished second by 1/4 lengths. She was very wide that day, but she was closing up well late. A 31-1 odds that day. She definitely outran him. A very good race there off the bench. And then the 2nd July at Delaware, mile 16th in the Christina Stakes, she won by a half a length. Coming from a tracking trip, a very, very good race there. Major improvement off her final race as a 2-year-old in the Jimmy Durante, where she finished 10th by 20.5 lengths that day. She was stupidly wide from breaking from post number 10 of 11. You don't win from that post at Del Mar, and she just couldn't keep up that day. But her 3-year-old campaign wasn't bad at all. Come to the 4-year-old campaign, training well. At 12-1, I'll use her here. I think you also have to use the number 6 horse, McCulloch. A very good 3-year-old campaign last year. She was a winner of the Jockey Club Oaks Invitational with the mile 3/8 at Aqueduct last fall, winner of the Belmont Oaks over the mile 1/4 last season, and finished second in the Regret Stakes last year, where she was closing up just a little bit too late that day. Ran a very good second place finish in behind New Year's Eve in the Eaglewood or in the Edgewood here last year. She has some good speed if she wants to use it. She'll be sitting off the pace. 5-2. I'll use her on the ticket also, and also keep an eye on for the 7-horse Shantasara, making her 5-year-old debut here in Kentucky. Well, not 5-year-old debut. She started twice here. She won the Hillsborough and placed in the Pegasus Filly Mare Turf last time out. Her fall campaign, her 4-year-old campaign, she ran twice. Once in the fall harvest at Keeneland over the mile, where she finished 5th. Needed that race definitely that day, and a decent place behind Regal Glory in the Jenny Wiley last fall. Coming here today, if you go to her 3-year-old form, she won the Grade 1 QE2 Cup at Keeneland, won the Jockey Club Oaks, won the Pucker Up at Arlington, She's a decent horse. It wouldn't surprise me if she gets a good trip. I'll use our 2-1 on the ticket. But to recap my selection for the eighth now from Churchill, or excuse me, the sixth from Churchill, not the eighth. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the sixth race from Churchill, it is the Modesty Stakes. Let's take the 4-horse Sparkle Blue. Give kudos to the 6-horse McCulloch and the 7-horse Shantasara. 4672 Super, 467 in your multi race. Let's head over to race number 7 now from Churchill. The seventh race from Churchill, it is the 8 Bell Stakes. It's a Grade 2 event going for a $500,000 purse race for 3-year-old fillies. 9 horses are going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the main track. My top selection here, I'm going to go with the number 8 horse. The number 8 horse, a seed. I'm going to go 8964 in the superfecta. 8964 super. Top selection 8 horse, a seed. 3 filly by Into the Mischief. Chad Brown trains one for Juddmonte. Flavian Pratt gets the mount. This horse has only started once in the main special weight at Goldstream. 6 furlongs on the 16th of March, and she won by 1/4 lengths. She stalked a pretty, decent pace that day. When she got to the front end, she quickened up and she got the job done. It made you forget about the not so good beginning. Refreshing here. She was going to see a stronger pace to be with that today, but I think she could step up and run a good race here against the boys. Most recent workout 47.3, the half on over the half mile, the seventh best workout of 150, and a half mile drill at pace in 49 flat. Coming here today, I like her a lot. As a bit of an upset here, it wouldn't surprise me here also if the 9-horse Money's Gold steals on the front end. She won the Tampa Sophomore Fillies Sire Stakes at Tampa, 7 furlongs, 26 March. Went by 17 1/4 lengths that day on the front end all throughout. Nobody was catching her. 106 bar. That was impressive. Before that, she went a little backwards, but still won at Goldstream. And in the allowance race, 54,000 for State Bred, 6 furlongs, 25th of January. She won by 6 1/4 that day. Only came home with an 88 bar, the lowest of her career. She hit the gate going out of it, but she recovered after that, going away with it. And then on debut last June at Monmouth, 5 furlongs in main special weight, she won by 14 1/4 lengths that day. 22-2, 45-1, 56-3 with a 101 buyer as a 2-year-old in June. That was impressive. She took off clear. She's going to be facing a little tougher competition than she has been, but it wouldn't surprise me if she steals it on the front end. But if she melts down, if she goes into a duel right today, it wouldn't surprise me if the seed catches this horse late. I'll use her on the ticket because she has a serious ability, and also I think the 6-horse Red Carpet Ready, getting a furlong less should suit her well. The Devona Dale, she just couldn't keep up that day. I thought she stalked a very fast pace. 45 to the half really cost her. Before that, in the Forward Gal, she won by 2 1/4 lengths that day. Didn't go as nearly as fast, but she stalked, she got the lead, and she quickened up nicely. A very good race there. And then here at Churchill in the fall, 6.5 furlongs in the Ferns Creek, won by 3 1/4 lengths that day. She really took off clear. She has to jump a little bit more by her points to get to, say, Money's Gold, but she could definitely win here today at 3-1. She's a use for me in the multi race. I think also talking about her, the 4-horse Effortlessly Elegant. I would use her in the pick 5 if you have the extra payroll. I don't think she wanted the 2 turns in the Ashland. She faced tougher horses also that day, and I also don't think she wanted the 2 turns in that race before that where she won. But the margin of victory wasn't that good, and I just don't think she's that kind of horse. I think she's better with her 1 turn, 7 furlongs, or even a mile. Cutting back and trip back to Churchill. I'll if you have the extra payroll, use her there at 12-1 because she definitely went on paper. But to recap my selection for the 7 from Churchill now, it is a very wide open Grade 2 8 Bell Stakes. Let's take the 8-horse A Seed. Give kudos to the 9-horse Money's Gold, the 6-horse Red Carpet Ready, and the 4-horse Effortlessly Elegant. 8964 Super, 8964 in your multi race. Let's head over to race number 8 now. Race number 8 from Churchill. It is the Unbridled Sidney Stakes. It is a listed stakes going for a $300,000 purse race for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 12 horses going to the Mount Wynn Turf Course, the distance of ground of 1,100 meters, or 5.5 furlongs on the turf course. My top selection, I'm going to go with the number 9 horse here, Little Jewel. I'm going to go 9-11-8-1 in the superfecta. 9-11-8-1 super. Top selection 9 horse Little Jewel. This 5-year-old mare by Lehman's Map. Carlo Vacareza trains this one. Javier Castellano gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came mid-April at Keeneland, 5.5 furlongs in the Giants Causeway, and the horse finished 5th by 2 lengths that day. Had a very wide posture, was just bumpy throughout, a little bit wide, and he just was a little mild that day. Refreshing here, hopefully from a wide poster, Javier could get this horse good position. I think he could win. The race before, if he runs to Captiva Island, could win against these horses. That was first time winners here at Gulfstream. 5 furlongs on the 11th of March, winning by 1/4 lengths from coming from mid pack. He slowly moved his way up and got the job in a very good race. Deep closers are not really good on sprinting on the turf course, especially at Gulfstream, but he got the job done. I wouldn't call him a deep closer. He was just sitting off the pace setters, but still a good run from there coming from mid pack. Before that 3rd of February at Gulfstream, 5 furlongs in the main special weight. He won by 4 1/4 lengths that day, and she stalked. She got to the front end, and she got the job done. A very good race there. And then first start in 2.5, almost, it's going to be 3 years next month at Gulfstream. 5 furlongs in main special weight. She finished second by 3/4 lengths. She closed up from nowhere. Not a bad race. For a previous race, you have to go back to the 4th of June of 2020. Here at Churchill, 5.5 in the main special weight, and she finished third by 7.5 lengths that day. She sat back early. She closed up from nowhere. She never changed leads, but she ran her heart out that day. Nothing bad about that run. Training well. Most recent workout, 4 furlongs on this course, and 49-3 with the dogs up. 4th best out of 4, and decent workouts at Palm Meadows. I think she's rearing to go. I'm going to use her on the ticket, but I would like, she has to leave to get good position here. I think her second likeliest winner, another horse that has to leave, is 11 horse Caravel. Tyler Gaffleone's on this one for Brad Cox. Most recently in the Shakertown, she won by a head. She had to be used a lot that day, but she got the job done. Very gritty performance, coming home with 100 buyer. Before that, facing the boys in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, she won by a half a length. Again, stupidly wide poster, but she forced it down on the front end and got the job done. A very good race, a career best 107 buyer. She jumped quite a few buyer points there. And then the Buffalo Franklin County at Keelan over the 5.5 in the fall. She won by 1 3/4 lengths that day, and she basically won in a trot, a very good race. She ran here once at Churchill last year in the Twin Spires Turf Sprint facing the boys, where she finished 6 by 3 1/4 lengths that day, and she just, got beat by better horses on a weirder turf course. I noticed, like I said, the turf course is running towards front runners still, but it's not as weird as it was running last year's Derby week. I think she could get a good trip and win. 4 to 5 front runners are doing good. I'll use her here. Another horse we could talk about here is the number 8 horse Overe for your Loveberry. Howard has a lot of speed, but then showed in the Giants Causeway in April, where she finished 9th by 9 3/4 lengths that day. She was very rambunctious, which cost her. She didn't break at the beginning. She got bumped, and that cost her because she never got to the front end. Before then, the Mardi Gras, the turf course at the Fairground, she won by 1.5 lengths, coming home with a career best 92 buyer. Very good run there. And then in a black type stakes over the 5.5 at the turf course at Fairground, she won by 2, and again from a tracking trip. She was drifting that day, but she still went off clear. She's making her Churchill Turf debut. She has a lot of speed here. It wouldn't surprise me at 8 to 1 if this horse, 5 to 1 if this horse steals it on the front end. And also from the rail horse, Bay Storm, for Jonathan Thomas. Johnny V's on this one. In the wishing well, he just, couldn't keep up late. Cutting back a furlong really suit this one. And the Megahertz and the Shawnee River definitely couldn't keep up. I think 5.5 is in this horse's wheelhouse. Last time ran 5.5, came actually at Monmouth. Okay, against very lesser quality horses, but he won by a length from a tracking trip. I won at Belmont over the 6th last January here. Placed in an optional claimer last year here. Gets a good post draw. Probably be sitting off the leading pair. It wouldn't surprise me if this horse gets a good trip and win. Definitely a horse using that late pick 4, that all stakes pick 4 that connects this race to the Oaks. But to recap my selections for the 8th from Churchill now, it's the Unbridled Sidney. We're going to take the 9 horse Little Jewel as a top selection. We'll give kudos to the 11 horse here, Little Caravel, and the 8 horse Overe, and the 1 horse Bay Storm. 9, 11, 8, 1 super. Use all 4 of them in that pick 4 to the 9th event. The 9th race from Churchill, it's the Troienne Stakes. It's a Grade 1 event going for a $750,000 purse. Race for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 10 horses going to the main track, 1,700 meters in distance, or a mile 16th on that Churchill main track. My top selection here, the Troienne, I'm going to go to the rail horse, to the 1 horse Played Hard, 1-4-6-2 in the superfecta. 1-4-6-2 super, top selection, the 1 horse Played Hard. 5-year-old mare by Into the Mischief. Philip Bauer trains. John Velasquez gets the mount. Horse hasn't been seen since the fall. That came here at Churchill in the Fall City Handicap, a mile and 1/8 on the 24th of November, and the horse won by a length that day and set some decent fraction. She quickened up nicely, and she got the victory done. A 90 buyer, not the fastest of her career, but it was still a very good race. Refreshing here. It is a tough lot Troienne this year, but she's back on her home track again. I think she could get the trip to win. Her most recent workout pattern hasn't been half, 47-3. The seventh best workout is 66. I think she's rearing to go and sitting on that good race. Two back in the Spinster Keeneland, a mile and eighth, 9th of October. She finished third by 8 1/4 lengths behind eventual Breeders' Cup Distaff winner Malathat. She just kind of stalked and couldn't keep up with Malathat. Played Hard, who finished third, was the next start winner. This horse, again, was the next start winner. She just couldn't keep up. I thought she faced two tough horses on the competition that day. And then the Lotus Grove at here at Churchill, mile 16th on the 17th of September. She's a course and distance winner, winning by 5 3/4 lengths, coming from a tracking trip a little bit wide, but she took off clear late. 99 buyer, that was the best for her career. And then Spa on the 4th of August, 1 mile over the Wilson Mile in optional 6-2. She won by a nose that day, and from a tracking trip, she had to be used a lot that day, but she got the job done. She's back to her home track where she's 8-3, always runs these good performances, training well. I'm gonna give her a shot on the ticket. I think your second likeliest winner here would be the 4-horse Secret Oath. Placed in the Apple Blossom Handicap, which was incredible. Only 3 other horses that day, but she stalked. She had the lead and looked like she was going to get to it, but Clariere closed up from nowhere to catch this horse. But this horse, she ran her heart out there, came home with a career best 102 buyer. Before then, the Uzeri, she won by 2 3/4 lengths, facing lesser quality horses. Her only other rival was Clariere that day, but she closed up from nowhere and went away with it. A very good race there. And then the end of 2022, I thought you just saw a tired horse. She finished 5th in the Distaff, 3rd in the Cotillion, a decent second behind Nest in the Alabama, but she just was a very tired horse. She had a very good early 2022 campaign. After the Preakness, her races just weren't that fast, but really in 2023 so far, she's really run these good races. It wouldn't surprise me if she gets the trip to win. I'll use her on the ticket here. I'm going to go too deep because we're going to go a little deeper in the other races in the pick 4. But to recount my selections now for the 9th from Churchill, it's the La Troienne. Let's take the 1-horse Played Hard as the top selection. Give kudos to the 4-horse Secret Oath, 1-4-6-2 Super, 1-4 in your multi-race. Let's get to the Edgewood, the 10th race from Churchill. The 10th race from Churchill, it is the Edgewood Stakes. It's a Grade 2 event going for a $500,000 purse, race for 3-year-old fillies. 11 horses are stepping on the Matt Winn turf course, the distance of ground of 1,700 meters, or a mile and 1/16 on that Matt Winn turf course. My top selection here, I'm going to go take the number 2 horse, Lugaria, as a top selection. I'm going to go 2-6-5-11 in the superfecta. 2-6-5-11 super, top selection, the 2 horse Lugaria. 3-year-old filly by Warfront. Chad Brown trains. Flavian Pratt gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came 3rd of December at Del Mar, a mile in the Grade 3 Jimmy Durante Stakes, and the horse won by 2 1/4 lengths that day. He was drawn stupidly wide, which is not ideal at Del Mar, especially going a mile. He was drawn post 11 of 12. He got good position out of the gate, but he didn't save enough ground. He was wide throughout, but when he had the turn of foot and he quickened up, he had the job done to overcome the wide posture. He got the job done coming with the 71 buyer. He's refreshing here. I would like to see him a little bit closer. Something I've noticed, with the rails were out earlier this week at Churchill. The speed or front end horses were doing very well. If you go back last season, front runners were doing well also. Deep closers, they won, but just not very often on this new turf course. Coming here today, hopefully seeing a little closer, I think he could run a good race and win. His most recent workout, a half mile and 48-4, I think he's geared up to get the job done here today. 2 back at Aqueduct, a mile 16th in the main special weight, 22nd of October. He won by a neck, and again, he was a little bit wide that day, but he stalked. He got the lead. Had to be used a lot, but he got the job done. A very good race coming home with the 71 buyer. And then on debut on the 11th of September at Monmouth now, 1 mile in the main special weight. He finished second by 6 3/4 lengths that day. Not the best beginnings, a little bumpy in the lane. Tax implications had the jump on him, but he ran decently. Coming here today, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets the job done. I'll use him here. The 6-horse Mission of Joy for Grand Motion and Joel Rosario. I think he's the second likeliest winner. Wouldn't surprise me if you see this horse in the Woodbine Oaks later this summer, because she is an Ontario bred. Most recently in the Florida Oaks at Tampa over the mile 16th on the green stuff, she won by a neck and she sat back early. She was a little bit wide, but when she got to the front end, she got the job done. A very good race for her, coming home with an 81 strong buyer. Prior to that Tampa mile in optional 75 on the lawn, she won by 2 lengths, and from a tracking trip, she stalked, she got the lead, and she went away with it. A very good race there. And then 3rd of December at Tampa, 1 mile in the main special weight, she won by 4. Stupidly wide post drop, but she stalked and she went away with it. A winner of her last race. She's undefeated on turf, always running these strong buyers. It wouldn't surprise me if she gets the job done. We'll use her here on the ticket, and also using the 5-horse preliminary for Clarovich Stable, Chad Brown, and Ira Ortiz Jr. So only started once in mid-March at Gulfstream, a mile and a main special weight, and she won by 1.5 lengths from a stupidly wide poster. It was stupidly wide, 2 to 3 wide, 6 wide, but she took off clear on cruise control. A very, very nice, easy run. Another race, since the race, she's been training well, pacing, and over here at Churchill at 5-1. I use on the late pick 4, or the pick 4 that begins with that the turf sprints. But to recap my selections now for the 10th from Churchill, it's the Edgewood. I'm going to take the 2-horse Liguria, 26511 Super, 265 in your multi-race. Let's get to the big race, the 11th race from Churchill. The 11th race from Churchill. It's the Friday feature. It is the Kentucky Oaks. It's a Grade 1 event going for a purse of $1.25 million. Race for 3-year-old fillies here. We have a field of 17 horses entered, but only 14 can go into the gate. The distance of ground of 1,800 meters, or a mile and 1/8 on the Churchill main dirt track. My top selection. There are times you love a horse, and then there are times you really love a horse. I really love a horse in this race. That's going to be the number 3 horse, Gambling Girl. I'm going to go 3-4. 13-7 in your superfecta. 3-4 13-7 super. The horse I really love is a 3-horse Gambling Girl. 3-year-old Colt, or excuse me, 3-year-old Philip by Dialed In. Top Fletcher trains this one. Ira Ortiz Jr. gets them out for Rapoli Stables. The horse's most recent outing came here in New York on the 8th of April. A mile and the 8th in the Grade 3 Gazelle, and she finished second by a half length. She was last most of the race. You know, the winner is running back in this one today, Promesia America. Basically, stalked a very pedestrian pace that day. They went 114-1. Promesia America had the dream trip, quicking up nicely. This horse came from nowhere, had to be used a lot, but she just missed late. Not a bad run. She was a little bit drifting that day, but she ran her heart out. Refreshing here. She'd get a better trip on this track, saying, from an inside poster, saying a little bit closer. She's not going to be a deep closer, but she's going to come from mid-pack. I think she could get the trip to win and find the winner's circle. 2 back, she ran the Honeybee at Oaklawn on the slot, but mile 16, 25th of February. She finished 4th by 4.25 lengths that day. She had a very weird trip that day. She got out wide. She was very, very far back. She moved a little bit late, but she just had a little bit too much to do that day. I thought, the tough trip got to her. And then back here in New York on the 14th of January, a mile and 1/8 on a good Aqueduct main track in the Basanda. She finished second by 2 3/4 lengths that day. Again, she sat back early after very pedestrian fraction on the front end. She moved a little bit late, but she still needed something. A Colt just had the jump on her there. And then the Demoiselle at Aqueduct on a very sloppy going a mile and 1/8. She finished third by a length. Again, last most of the race, stupidly wide, but she was closing up well behind Affirmative Lady and Julia Shining. Nothing bad about that race there. First time around 2 turns. The previous race on Aqueduct on the 30th of October, 7 furlongs in the Maida Mist. She finished 4th by 15 lengths that day and lost all chances at the beginning where she was bumped really badly. She was very wide. That took a lot out of her in her 2-year-old race. Just throw that race out. And then the Joe Jimma at Aqueduct over the 7. She won by 1 3/4 lengths from a tracking trip. I thought she won quite nicely. It took her a little bit of time to break her maiden, but as she faced the state bred, she really went up. When she faced the open competition, she really went up a lot. She hasn't won against them, but she's run these sneaky good races. Her workout pounds haven't been half bad since coming to Churchill. I think she should get a good trip from the 3-hole. She'll see a strong pace to come with. Come from mid-pack. It wouldn't surprise me at 15-1 if she wins. I'm going to use her. Another horse I'm definitely going to do in the exactas would be the 4-horse South Lawn. 3-year-old Philip at Pioneer of the Nile. Norm Cassie trains. Raylu Gutierrez gets the mount. Most recently, they ran the horse in the Fairgrounds Oaks at the Fairgrounds, mile 16th, 25th of March, and he won by 3 1/4 lengths that day. And again, coming from nowhere that day, a little bit wide, but he kept coming and he took away the competition. An 86 Mile, a very good race there, back to stakes quality horses. Before that, the Fairgrounds, mile 16th and optional 80, he won by 8 lengths. And again, from a tracking trip, he got to the front and he kept going. A very good race there. Big question with him is, does he only like running at the Fairgrounds? Because he ran two of his best races there. But then if you go to the race before, okay, it was on the turf here at Churchill, going a mile in the lounge race. He finished fifth by 6.5 lengths. He just kind of stalked that day after not the best beginnings, and he just never quickened up. Maybe the beginning got to him there. And then the turf at Keeneland, he wanted to go. Joe Talbot didn't let him go. I think that cost him where he finished ninth. And then the Pocahontas, the horse finished seventh by 3 1/4 lengths there, where he just never really got into it. But ever since, that Churchill turf race, he's become a better horse, and his buyers have gone up. Coming here today, maybe she's peaking at the right time. At 8-1, I'll use her on the ticket. A horse I think that's also peaking at the greatest time is the 13 horse Affirmative Lady, but she's going to have a lot to do from that 13 hole. Grand Motion trains this one. John Velasquez, the veteran, gets to the mound. John Velasquez is having a very good week here at Churchill. But most recently, they ran the horse in the Gulfstream Park Oaks at Gulfstream, mile 16th on the 1st of April. It was her first time, running a race where she finally got a victory, and she won by 2 lengths that day. She stalked most of the race, which I don't think is half bad with the short stretch mile 16th races. And she also didn't break so well and was a little bit wide, but she kept coming, winning by 2 open lengths. A very good run. I think she's another horse. As the distances get longer, she's going to get better. She's the kind of horse I would bet in the Alabama if we have future wagering for that race at Saratoga right now. Even a Belmont kind of horse. She looks like she can go a mile and a half. But I love that Gulfstream victory. Prior to that, they had to get her a victory. She ran in main special weight Gulfstream, mile 16, 26 February. They got it for her. She won by 2 1/4 lengths. She stalked. She got the lead. And she went away with it. A very good race. Even if she steadied a little bit, it was still a good run. And then back here in New York in the Basanda on the 14th of January, she finished third by 7 lengths that day. She was a little bit wide and very tiring track. She just couldn't keep up there. But before that, in the Demoiselle, she closed second from last from my other horse who I have here, my top selection, Gambling Girl. She closed up. She had the lead. Julia Schotting got back to this horse. But this horse, she didn't go down without a fight. She really put on a show that day. Another horse going back to the mile and eighth. I think she's peaking at the right time. It's a shame she has a very wide post draw. She's going to have to do a lot to win here today, but she has the ability. I'll use her in the pick 4. Let's go over some other horses here. The one horse Mimi Kasushi, the Maidan shipper for Godolphin, won the UA Oaks quite nicely and the Guineas quite nicely, but those are not the world's best horses. I think she'll probably get overbet here stateside. I just think a lot of other horses are better than her. Not a use for me. The Alley's look here. I would use this horse in the super high fives and then the bottoms of the superfecta. Shame that the superfecta in this race can pay very nicely. I think it always pays nicely in the Derby, but I think here in the Oaks it can pay very well also. Shame that's not a 10-cent super, because it's the kind of race where you could spread with a 10-cent super. It's going to be dollar minimums today, but the Alley's look, her races aren't half bad. She could win, but she's definitely a horse you could use in the super high fives and the trifectas or in the supers over there. We talked about Gambling Girl and South Lawn. The 5-horse Wonder Wheel, she was great as a 2-year-old. She won the Breeders' Cup last year. Then came back in the Suncoast where she ran okay, but they kept saying, we're not pointing for the Suncoast, we're pointing for the Ashland. And then she really ran horribly in the Ashland. Back on the home track, she just did not run. She wanted to go that day. Tyler didn't let her go. Maybe that was the problem, but she just had nothing that day. Maybe Tyler will let her, she gets Rosario today, so maybe Rosario will let her go, but, that was a head scratcher. Her workouts are a lot faster coming to this race than it was last race. It wouldn't surprise me here, but she should have done a lot better than last time out. I'll use her in the trifectas, but, she should have did a lot better. Botanical, the buyers have been very strong at Turfway on the Tapeta, where she's won quite nicely. She's bred for dirt, but she hasn't been on it. Big question will be the kickback. She's training on it nicely, but, I've noticed some of those Turfway buyers over the winter have been coming up a little higher than usual, but she can win. I have Wet Paint for 4th. She won easily in the fantasy, not facing the best horses. She didn't break so well, but she put on a show that day, and she won the Honeybee quite nicely also. She's going to be facing her biggest challenge here today. She's going to have to overcome a lot of traffic from the deep closer here, but she can win also. I have her fourth on the ticket. Pomacea America, I thought she fluked last time out in the Gazelle, where she won nicely, from a tracking trip. I don't think she's going to get as easy today, and I think she's just facing a little bit too tough horses and a little bit too faster horses for her. Not today, but she's a horse I would keep on an eye on as the season goes on. The 9-horse Tell Me Noels, for Peter Miller and Ramon Vasquez, closed up well in the San Diego Oaks and in the San Isabel, but she's going to be facing a lot more tougher horses. She's going to have to run a very fast race, which I don't think she can in the spot. Again, the 10-horse Flying Connection, she ran fast in the Sunland Park Oaks, but she's going to be facing another very tough competition horses here. It would very, very surprise me if she gets the job done here. Defining Purpose, I love the Ashland victory. If I had to give you a fifth horse for my ticket, it would probably be her. The Ashland victory I liked, where she had a great tracking trip, but she's not going to get as easy as trip today. In the Honeybee, she just was a little bit flat there on the slop, and in the Martha Washington, maybe she doesn't like the slop. There was a slight chance of rain in the forecast today, so that's a little iffy. But she won the year's end before that at Oaklawn nicely, and then her races here, she won a main special weight here in November nicely. Came back with a very quick turnaround of about she ran back in 10 days or 9 days to run in the Goldenrod after that, where she ran a little flat that day. But coming here today, she can win. Her workouts since the last race aren't bad. I'll have her fifth on the ticket. The 12-horse Darth Vader from Michael Yates and Luis Saez. Again, stepping up in class here today. Does you want to go the two turns? That's going to be my biggest question. Mile and the eighth. I think she's the kind of horse that would probably do a little bit better cutting back in trip. A horse I would send to Saratoga for the 3-year-old filly race. Is it the Ballerina or something like that? I can't remember it right now. For the sprinters, we talked about Affirmative Lady Ready. The 14-horse Pretty Mischievous for Brendan Walsh. Just couldn't keep up in the Fairgrounds Oaks, where South Lawn just got the jump on her. She also didn't have the best beginnings. Before that, won the Rachel Alexandra and the Untappable. She's going to be facing her biggest challenge here today. She's not going to get everything her own way. Also, stupidly wide poster, might be a detriment to her. She's getting blinkers on, though. That's something to keep an eye on. The 15-horse Taxed, not to be confused with the horse that ran the Derby a few years ago, Tax. But Taxed, I just think she's not up to par with these horses. She moved in the fantasy last time out behind Wet Paint, and then she just ran horribly in the Honeybee from a stupidly wide poster. If she draws in, she's going to have a very wide poster, which probably will cost her. She broke her main here in a main claim race and actually claimed out of the run in November nicely. But she's just gonna have to really run a fast race, which I just don't think so. The Julia Shining of 2022 and early 23 could definitely win this race. If she draws in, she's going to have a very wide post draw, and she's going to have a lot to do from there, which I just don't think she can. She's probably not going to draw, and I just can't see her another horse scratching here. And the 17-horse Hoosier filly, again, just hasn't shown a lot. Not a use for me if she draws in. But let's recap my selection now for this year's Kentucky Oaks. The 11th race from Churchill, that grade 1 $1.25 million Kentucky Oaks. My top selection here, I'm going to go take the number 3 horse here, Gambling Girl. We'll give kudos to the 4-horse South Lawn and the 13-horse Affirmative Lady. Going to go 3, 4, 13, 7 super. 3, 4, 13 to end off the multi-race wagers here. Like I said, I love the 3-horse Gambling Girl. She's going to get a nice win place for me. I'm probably going to do an exacta here, 3-4, box it, at 3-4 straight exact also. But, Gambling Girl, I think she's sitting on a very good race here. So to recap those selections, the top 4 would be 3, 4, 13, 7. We'll do the 3-4 exacta box here, 3, 4, 13 in the multi-races to end it off. With that being said, good luck to all. Remember to go check out my 2000 Guineas preview from Newmarket, and also check out very soon for my Kentucky Derby preview here on YouTube. Good luck to all, and please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world.